This is Putting Veterans First, a presentation of the National Veterans Rights Association. NVRA is an organization with one thing in mind, putting the rights and best interest of our veterans first and foremost. This program will provide guidance to the 60,000 homeless vets seeking help, to the millions denied benefits, to the families of more than 17,000 vets annually who commit suicide. Putting Veterans First is hosted by Stu Steinberg, a veteran who served in Vietnam as an explosive ordnance disposal specialist from 1968 to 1970 and a volunteer service officer for Vietnam Veterans of America since 1978.
Welcome to podcast 1 of 4 on stem cell therapy and veterans. Our podcast guests today are Stuart A. Steinberg, Chairman, National Veterans Rights Association Incorporated; Kristen Comella, Chief Scientific Officer, BioHeart and U.S. Stem Cell Clinic, and Director, National Veterans Rights Association; and Dr. Randall Davis, CEO, Luminex Life Sciences Health and Wellness Clinic, and Director, National Veterans Rights Association.
This is Stu Steinberg. I'm the Chairman of the Board of Directors of the National Veterans Rights Association, and I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm totally and permanently disabled, largely because of injuries that occurred while I was in Vietnam. And this program, the stem cell thing, is just monumentally important. And what's unfortunate, I think, and hopefully something that we as an organization and our supporters will be able to have a real impact on, is changing the mindset in Washington that there's something wrong with doing this kind of work.
This is Dr. Randall Davis. I'm trained as a doctor of chiropractic and have been studying holistic healthcare and medicine for 30 years and practicing for 30 years. What my involvement is, I'm a director on the National Veterans Rights Association and also on the board of directors of Luminex Corporation. I'm currently the CEO of Luminex Life Sciences Health and Wellness Clinics. And we have a proprietary product that has been in development for over 30 years, which is an all-natural, safe product to be used for many different conditions in healing the body. And we can talk about that more in a little while. But what we've done is combined our efforts with the efforts of Ms. Kristen Comella, one of the top stem cell researchers in the world. And she is pioneering new techniques, and what we have done is combined our programs to help veterans and other patients who are suffering to try and afford them the best healing possible with some serious conditions. And it's a combination program where we'll go in and take care of some issues that need help before someone might be able to do a stem cell therapy, and try and basically prep their bodies for the procedure as well as possible to try and achieve the best possible outcomes. And then our program would lead up to a stem cell therapy. Ms. Comella would be in charge of a stem cell procedure or multiple procedures, depending on the condition. And then once they're through with that, we would follow up again with our material and our protocols to try and afford the best possible healing for the patients. And we've got Kristen Comella on the line. Kristen, can you give us your credentials and tell us about yourself?
Yes, thanks, Dr. Davis. This is Kristen Comella, and we're very excited to be a part of this program and feel that regenerative therapies are going to be something that can help change the course of many diseases for patients. I'm actually a stem cell scientist and began working in the field in the late 90s and have worked with a variety of different types of stem cell therapies and regenerative medicine type techniques. These include things like bone marrow-derived stem cells or fat-derived stem cells and even muscle-derived stem cells. The concept of regenerative medicine is that you can harness your body's own healing potential and reverse some of the effects of different diseases that can occur. And so this is a little bit different than traditional pharmaceutical-type medicine because what this does is deal with more the symptoms of the disease. In the case of regenerative type therapies, we can actually change the course of the disease by repairing damaged tissue and getting you back to a baseline so that your tissue can now function properly, and now the symptoms of your disease can go away because of that. So what we typically will do at the U.S. Stem Cell Clinic, which is where we treat patients, is we can harness the stem cells from the fat tissue. It turns out that the fat tissue is one of the most plentiful sources of stem cells inside the body. And we can go in by doing a very minimally invasive procedure. We make a small incision in the abdomen, and we can go in and numb the tissue beneath the skin. We do this all under local anesthesia. It does not require us to put the patient completely out under general anesthesia, so it's a very safe procedure in that regard. And then we can remove about 60 milliliters of fat tissue, which is a very small amount of fat tissue. It's one syringe full of fat tissue. But in that fat tissue, there are very high amounts of stem cells, so we can get millions of stem cells just from that one draw. And then we can use those stem cells by targeting them specifically to the areas that have been damaged inside the body. What's great about stem cells is that they have an ability to home to areas that have been damaged inside the body. And this is because once you have damaged tissue, there's signaling that comes off of that tissue in the form of cytokines and different proteins. And now these cells that we put in can recognize that the tissue is damaged, and they will automatically go to that area to then help recruit other cells to begin the healing process and also start to create new tissue themselves. So what we now can do is reverse the effects of different diseases. So things like diabetes or even limb ischemia from a patient who is diabetic and starts to develop damaged tissue in their legs, or things like heart disease or lung disease, orthopedic applications. There's many different applications where these cells can be beneficial, even neurological conditions. So now that the tissue is being healed, the patients can begin to feel better. So we've done over 4,000 patients, and the ability now to combine these programs with the TAPA program and some of the work that Dr. Davis has been doing is very exciting for us. We think that this program is going to take regenerative medicine into the next level. And we're anxious to get started with patients and excited about the opportunity to bring this to the veteran community.
Kristen, that was well said, well stated. Stu, I have a question for you. What kind of conditions are you running across in the veteran community that, as far as health conditions and so forth, and do you think there's a lot of possibilities for stem cells and for our TAPA protocol, which I'd like to describe in a few minutes? But what kind of conditions and things are at least people really suffering from that need our attention?
My clients, for those of you that don't know, I'm a service officer for Vietnam Veterans of America and United Spinal Association. And I have cases pending right now, I think, in 27 of the 53 regions. And my clients' medical problems run the gamut. Many of my Vietnam guys have or have had various forms of cancer and other disabilities caused by exposure to herbicides. I have probably over the last 11 years since I've been doing this pretty much full-time since I retired, I mean dozens and dozens and dozens of guys with type 2 diabetes, many who have had prostate cancer and have, of course, had radical prostatectomies, which have then end up causing, many other, problems, incontinence, erectile dysfunction, anal leakage, but a lot of my clients, I would guess that the biggest majority, and I include myself in this category, have really serious orthopedic problems. In my own case, I was actually blown up during an explosive ordnance disposal operation in Vietnam, and the blast hit me largely in the lower back, and in addition to a lot of shrapnel and second and third degree burns, I began to have some problems, with my lower back, but they really weren't anything that I couldn't deal with until I think it was in October of 2009. I woke up one morning literally paralyzed with pain. I mean, I could barely crawl across the bed to get to the phone. I eventually ended up having to call. Well, actually, these friends that came over to try to help me eventually called 911. And after a couple of injections of fentanyl, they were able to get me on a gurney, take me to the hospital, and so on and so forth. When I woke up, the neurologist and the orthopedic surgeon happened to just come into the room. And I can't remember which one of them it was, but they asked me, because they had done CAT scans while I was basically unconscious, and they asked me if I had ever had a traumatic injury to my lower spine. And, of course, I laughed and said, well, yeah, I got blown up. And in the end, they were, completely convinced that the problems that I have, I think it's in the last 2 or maybe 3 vertebrae, were caused by this injury. And frankly, if this program could fix this, because I'm being told by the VA that this is just not surgically repairable, number one, and number two, that, the surgical possibilities are such that I could end up in worse shape. So that's obviously not something I'm thinking about at this point. So, if this program could help me or others like me, it would just be, it would be a monumental, incredible thing. And I'm really, really excited and happy to be involved in this project.
Kristen, if they wanted to look up your information and get some information on the web, is there a website they could go to?
usstemcellclinic.com, and then our parent company is bioheartinc.com. So U.S. Stem Cell Clinic is a division of the parent company, but U.S. Stem Cell Clinic is the most appropriate place to go for patient information.
For TAFA and Tri-Amino information, you would want to go to, at this point, it's called Amnion Animal, AMNION Animal.com, and that will link you to the human side of things, and then the National Veterans Rights Association.
It's nationalveteransrights.org.
That's an incredible website, and the things that Stu has been doing to help veterans is really incredible.
You've been listening to Putting Veterans First, a program designed to help millions of vets and their families receive the benefits and care they deserve. Putting Veterans First is a presentation of the NVRA, the National Veterans Rights Association.